Welcome to the True North Fantasy Football Podcast.
What up, fantasy people? Live from Dirty Laundry Studios, this is the True North Fantasy Pod. I'm Trav, and you can find me at TCL14 on Twitter, and you can find this show and all of our video content on the TNFF network on YouTube, and of course, the site where you can find all the crew's work is TrueNorthFFB.com. So we had another wild week of NFL football. It's in the books. Week 5, we had some big injuries once again, unfortunately. Tuesday night game, which was a nice little surprise for us in the middle of the week, and a huge performance from a certain Canadian stud wideout. And we're going to get into some of that as we move into week 6 on this show. And to do that, I have brought in yet another stable of top-notch guests to join the pod, and some great friends of mine who I'm really stoked to chat about fantasy football with. Is what I was going for there. So I will first introduce my True North cohort. You can find him at TNFF Tyrell, and he's not only a founder of this podcast as my former co-host, but he is a co-creator of True North as a whole. So he's getting his dukes ready there. I like to make a little joke that he's back from a little bit of a 6-month bender in like Tijuana or Thailand or something. That surely culminated in some happy endings, right, Ty? So we got Tyrell Maclachlan. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, same old. Thank you so much for having me. I had to get the shoulders going. Felt like the boys were warming me up there to hop out in the ring. Just missing the intro music there for sure. But yeah, no, couldn't be happier to be here with JD on, with OG OAT on. I'm just thrilled to chat some foosball. And yeah, I can't think of a better group of boys to do it with. So Trav, I'm almost close to spoiling the intro for you for the heavy hitter guests that are here. So tag me out. Tell everyone who we got tonight.
Oh, buddy, I got big intros for all of you guys, so don't worry about that. Next, actually, these guys are pulling a double header at the moment. The fellows from the GOAT District podcast, JD and Dan. We will get into there it is. There's the GOAT. And GOAT has the True North T on. We love it. So, yeah, as you can see there, JD is the man behind the GOAT District account. You can find him at GOAT District. For me, JD, you are an OG of Canadian content creators, my man. Somebody whose content I've looked up to since I got into the game. I consider you a true friend and someone who I look to for advice for my rosters and in building the True North brand. So what's going on, JD? How's the marathon podding going? Because you guys just got off your stream probably roughly, 6 or 7 minutes ago?
Yeah, man. Just enough time for Dan to go comb his hair and his stash and take a little wee, as they say. But dude, it's the feeling is mutual. I respect and appreciate what you guys do. And like I said, man, I felt like I was kind of alone out here in fantasy land as a Canadian. And once I found you guys, man, it's like it's like Cheers. I felt like I was at, I just felt home again. And I love it, man. I love how many Canadians are in fantasy. And I got to say, like, props to you guys. You guys made it all happen in the sense that you brought this Canadian fantasy community together. And that's huge, man. That's awesome. So everything you said was, I'm flattered and all that, but you guys, I think you guys brought this thing together and bringing it to another level. So props to what you're doing too. And thanks for having us on tonight, and especially Dan's hair, because that's a big get.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate that. And I mean, we couldn't have done it unless there were those Canadians out there. So I don't think we did a whole lot of work.
We had a great group, and shout out to the Canucks, FF Canucks.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a great chat group going. Shout out to all those guys. We might have some in the comments here as we speak. Brian says they take on a lot of strays. I'm thankful.
Nice.
And then so last, guys, I actually decided to save this special guest as the best for last. Sorry to the other two of you, but we had to save Dan. Yeah, there's the goat. I love it. So Dan, in true honorary Canadian fashion, you do have the flow going. We have dubbed you an honorary Canadian. I would say one of the nicest guys that I've met in the industry. I think your Twitter game is extremely underrated as well, because you put out some wicked Twitter content. He can be found at Overhyped Sleeper, and that's Sleeper with no ER on the end, with just an R. And that is Dan Williamson. Dan, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. That's the first time I've seen my shit posting described as wicked Twitter content, but I'll take it. And I gotta give you guys props for that intro, man. I mean, that sounded kind of almost like the organ in Strange Brew, when he's hockey players do their stuff. So I'm a little bit concerned about what you might have slipped into my drink and what I might do later when you start hitting the organ notes. So I don't know where this pod is going, but
we'll save all that stuff for off air, Dan. That's not appropriate.
Okay, got it. I was just gonna say, if I do anything that's out of character, it's probably that caused it. So
we slipped him something.
That's right. No, I really appreciate you guys having me on, and JD, and I just enjoy the heck out of your content and everything you guys are doing. Enjoy following all you guys on Twitter as well. You guys put out some great stats, some just absolutely fantastic analysis, and a strong Twitter game as well. You guys slip in the occasional really sly or funny tweet. I love it. So keep it up.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I appreciate that. And Ty is our resident stats dude, so I'm sure he's got some nice. Yeah. What were we calling them, Ty? We were calling them fat stats with a PH. We were calling them that. Yeah. So I'm sure Ty's got some fat stats.
I think Ty's stat game is underrated. I think he's probably one of the. I'll put Ty up there as one of my favorite analysts.
Yes,
putting that out there. So if you're not following him,
I think that's fair to say.
And as we watch Ty's head grow, I actually would agree with that, JD. That's dope. That's dope. Yeah, no, I've had a lot of people agree with that as well, Ty. So stellar work you're putting out there, and make sure you give all of these guys a follow. So guys, I was mentioning a little bit off the hop there. We've had a lot of injuries lately. So on this show, our meat and potatoes, so to speak, is going to be, I'm calling it the replacements. So we're going to talk about some of these players who have come in and filled in for some injury replacements over the first 5 weeks of the season. So that's going to be the meat and potatoes. I did mention that we are going to talk about a certain Canadian stud wide receiver, and that will be kind of the final piece of the episode. And sandwiched in between that puppy, there it is. And sandwiched in between that puppy, we are going to do, of course, another installment of I Got 5 on It with Monkey Knife Fight. Usually we do the Thursday night game on that. So there is no Thursday game this week. So we're going to get in on some of these early lines for the Sunday slate, and it's going to be pretty exciting. So I'm pretty fired up for it, boys, and I appreciate you guys all jumping on. A little bit more Ty gushing in the comments from Will there.
Nice, I love it.
Us Steelers fans, we stick together.
Absolutely, as you should.
There you go.
If I disappear for a sec, I'm just taking a little wee.
Un pepe, as they might say.
It's keeping on up.
Gonna take a wicked yes.
Yeah. All right, guys. So before we get into all of that stuff, because we've got a lot of stuff to cover and I want us to jump right in, I want to take a second to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, Expand the Box Score. Expand the Box Score is the essential database for stat heads like us. We talked about Ty's stats. A lot of that stuff is dug from Expand the Box Score. So they've got NFL, they've got NBA, Major League Baseball, college football, and even minor league baseball databases for stats. So there's really something for everybody as far as they go. And so for us, obviously, we use the NFL and the college football databases for our deep dives. And you can find stats there that you can't really find anywhere else, which is another thing that I like about them. The college database specifically is really invaluable in the offseason as you try to prepare for your rookie drafts, and you'll find something new every time you log on. And we like digging through data like that, and we hope that you do too. And if you do, you can go to expandtheboxscore.com. You can use promo code TrueNorth10 to get 10% off of whatever package you choose. So again, that promo code is TrueNorth10 for 10% off at Expand the Box Score. Expand the Box Score, superior stats to dominate fantasy football. And that is what we seek to do in fantasy, fellas. And I think some of the analysis we're going to drop on this pod is going to help some of our listeners do just that and dominate fantasy football. So without further ado, we're going to get into the replacements, so to speak, and talk about some of these guys who are replacing injured players. So I got a list of guys on here, fellas, you saw beforehand. JD, the first guy, we're going to start with you because I know this guy resides on your favorite team, Jonathan Taylor. So JT came into the season, lots of fanfare after a great combine, solid landing spot with that offensive line. Everybody was a little bit worried about Marlon Mack, but Marlon Mack got injured in the first game. Of course, we never wish injury on anybody, no matter how high we're touting a prospect like JT. But it's actually turned out to be Nyheim Hines that has been the thorn in the side of Jonathan Taylor to an extent. Jonathan Taylor's barely getting any targets, and his rushing work has been inefficient at best. So, JD, as a fan, as somebody who's really tuned into this team, do you see this kind of split workload being a trend for the Colts going forward, or are they kind of slowly, gradually getting into giving Jonathan Taylor that role?
Yeah, for me, this time of season is opportunity time, and Taylor's a guy coming into the season that I was very bullish on. As you said, he's a Colt one, but just as a prospect, big fan. Someone I was buying. I took him at the 101 ahead of guys like CH in a couple of rookie drafts. So JT's a guy that I'm heavily invested in, and if opportunity is to buy him right now at a discount, I think that the opportunity is there because guys. You look at him and CH. I mean, even in that perfect situation in KC, he's still inconsistent. You know, you're not getting RB1 on a weekly top 5 production. These guys are rookies, guys. You got to let these guys grow. You know, grow in the offense. They've got a new quarterback, and look, I'm not a fan of Rivers. I mean, I'm ready to throw Brissett in there. You know, but again, to me, the more this offense evolves into the season, the more they're going to go through the run game and the more JT is going to become part of that. We've only seen 5 weeks, guys. And if you look at some of the defenses they've played, there's a good explanation. And look, I mean, he's given you double digits in 3 of the 4 weeks or something like that, 3 of the 5 weeks. I don't have it in front of me. But if you look at, and the other like yards per reception, you talk about his receptions. If you look at, let's take Zeke and let's take JT. Okay, out in Dallas. If you take a guy like Pollard's getting 2 or 3 targets a game. Hines is getting 3 or 4 a game.
Yeah.
Are we that much more worried about Hines versus Pollard in this? You're talking about an offense with a way better defense than Dallas. You're talking about one of the top offensive lines in the league. I don't see why everyone is not buying JT right now. And for me, this is just more opportunity where he hasn't blown up yet.
That is music to my JT loving ears, buddy. It was interesting. Those 6 targets to start the year, we were like, giddy up, JT. We don't really care even if Marlon Mack is healthy, but it's tailed off a little bit, like you said. But if it's me, I'm definitely more worried about Tony Pollard than I am Nyheim Hines, of course. So I like what you said. I like the comparison that you did there. Dan, what are you thinking about JT's outlook for the rest of the season for 2020? Would you say he's like a solid top 15 running back? Is that where you'd put him, or more top 24, would you say?
Oh, he's definitely top 24. And I think by the end of the year, you know, I don't know where he'll finish exactly, but I think by the end of the year, he's going to start giving you top 15 weeks a lot. You know, and I see this as being a situation where, you know, this is a team that's looking to to make the playoffs. And so I think Taylor's going to get exactly as much work as he earns. And I think, you know, he's still figuring out the NFL game a little bit. You know, it's kind of like Miles Sanders last year. You know, Sanders wasn't the world's greatest to start with, you know, but as the season came along and the attrition hit on the Eagles, you know, he was able to build in more and more of workload, you know, not only due to what his talents were, but also just due to the fact that, there was less and less competition, and we may see that be the case here too. I don't know if Naeem Hines is going to get hurt or not, but I do know that, Jonathan Taylor is a decent receiver, and I know that he's a good runner. He's going to get the NFL blocking schemes and the NFL defensive speed figured out. And, this is a guy, as a friend of our show, Noah Riddell likes to say, he's like an anvil with a jetpack on the back. So that's kind of how I think of him. He's just, he's got that prototypical size and power and everything else. And his athleticism is off the charts. And, he's shown that he can master every level up to this level. And I think he's going to master this level too. So I think it's just a matter of hold on, be patient, and let the good times roll.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. Good times are definitely ahead for those who have Jonathan Taylor rostered. So Ty, I'm going to flip to you here, and I want you to talk. We were talking rest of season and the True North Pod. We cover redraft, we cover dynasty content. So I want to talk about his dynasty ranking right now. Would you say he is a top 10 dynasty running back for you right now, Ty?
I mean, I think that's definitely right on the borderline. I think what's interesting, all this running back 1, running back 2 talk, we look at the scenario that's unfolded with Marlon Mack going down. That's sort of the upside, the perceived upside in Dynasty all along was him taking over this backfield when Marlon Mack was to walk in free agency. He would find himself behind this elite offensive line, and Jonathan Taylor could unroll his elite talent. Unfortunately, none of that's really come to fruition. Jonathan Taylor's just not making people miss. The offensive line is let down a bit in the run blocking department. So these are both, areas I see, him experiencing an uptick in when it comes to the situation. But I think Phillip Rivers is kind of capping this whole thing, man. I really do. I think the inefficiency has to do with teams stacking the boxes against the run, because Phillip Rivers really has nothing left in the tank when it comes to even intermediate passing, let alone deep passing. I think he's just a complete lie of fucking ability right now, to be honest. I don't have to tell you, JD. I know you're a Colts fan. It's like watching Big Ben. It's the same thing. It's just you're relying entirely on the system at this point. So I think Jonathan Taylor, I'll pose this to you guys. How many games do you think Jonathan Taylor's been a running back 1 this season with no Marlon Mack?
1?
It's a big
zero.
I was going to say, he still hasn't been a top 12 running back in any.
The most he's done is 15 points or something like that.
Yeah, and he's been a running back 2, 4 or 5 weeks, so he's still giving you that floor. And I think it could be as simple as him just playing more. I mean, he's still under 50% of the snaps on the season. He's only getting 52% of the Colts carries. Over 17 running backs have a higher share of their team's market share. And man, it all comes down to this pass catching. Like Naeem Hines is killing us, you guys. And it's very similar to like Danny Woodhead, Melvin Gordon with Frank Wright in San Diego. It's driving me nuts. But 25%, just like predicted, on cue, the market share is going to the running back position with Phillip Rivers, but only 8% of that's going to Jonathan Taylor. So that's where we can see that huge uptick. I mean, the guy leads the league in yards after the catch per reception. That's the glimmer of hope we're seeing. Yeah, the yards per carry, all this stuff is just killing us, but you look at that yards after the catch per reception, what he can offer in that passing game, I think it's just a matter of time. Even if we don't have faith in him starting to break some tackles and be more elusive, even if we don't have faith in this offensive line returning to regal status like they were last season, I think we can bank on him at least getting some of the pass catching work. So to answer your question that I'm trying really hard not to answer, he's right on that cusp, man. He's right at that back end running back 1 in Dynasty for me. And it's just that there is so much upside because he has these several avenues to elevate his stock into that upper echelon at the running back position.
And I think a feather in his cap in saying that he hasn't had any running back weeks is that in PPR, he is still sitting as the running back 13 on the season so far. So that's just a testament to that floor you were talking about, Ty. So I think that's really well said. And guys, I just want to really quick say, this is something that I said to you guys beforehand, but you guys have already proven to me that you're going to do a stellar job of it. I'm so excited for this pod. You guys are going to be doing all the work, putting out great analysis. I'm going to be able to sit back and soak it all up. So it's a good start, fellas. You guys nailed that on JT. So I think that's a good time for us to move into our next guy. This is one of my most rostered players in my dynasty leagues right now, and someone that I've been looking at as a potential league winner this season, and that would be Damian Harris. Damian Harris came out in his debut with the Patriots with 17 carries for a cool hundo. And that 17 carries was on only 23 snaps, guys. So only 6 snaps was he out there that he did not get a touch. So that is a really good sign. So I think we all kind of love the idea of having someone more dynamic eating up Sony's workload. And hopefully for me, that's going to be Damien Harris. But Dan, I want to flip to you first. Do you think this is going to be Damien Harris's job if he can continue to show what he showed last game? Or is it going to be just a yucky mess like the Patriots backfield usually is?
Well, I mean, as far as rushing the ball, then yeah, I'm on board with it being more Harris's job. I mean, Michel has had chance after chance, and he flashes from time to time, but we've never really seen him go out for the past couple of years and do a lot with the job. And so I think I think they're more interested in seeing what Harris has to offer. So I think he's going to get the opportunity, especially with Michel on IR right now. I don't know how long he's going to, Michel is going to be on IR, but this is a perfect chance for Harris to get in there and cement that. We also know he does have, some receiving ability, or at least that's what he showed at college. So there is some hope, that might be something that they add in later. But I think for now, he's probably going to be more, just the guy who's pounding away and doing the heavy lifting on the rushing, and probably letting Burkhead and James White do a little bit more of the receiving work. But I do know that Belichick would like to get somebody in there, that can, where he doesn't tip his hand as to what kind of play is coming. And if Harris can be that guy to any extent, I think they'll give him a little bit of opportunity there. So I like his chances. I mean, this is the Patriots and this is Belichick. So nothing's written in stone. But Harris is one of those guys that I like having stashed on my bench as kind of a flex play right now, and stick him in there from time to time and see how he does, and hopefully he continues to move forward and cement his hold on the job.
I think he can too. And I think the beauty of him is that you got him super cheap because Sony was looking like the starter. James White is cemented into that role. And I think the beauty of that is that we didn't expect the pass catching role from Damien Harris. We kind of knew that it was going to continue to be James White or somebody in that role, and that Damien Harris was kind of a direct heir to what Sony's been getting. So that's kind of what I like about him, is that he doesn't necessarily need that pass catching to have potential upside if he can do more with those touches. But JD, what do you think about Damien Harris? Is he somebody that you were scooping up? I know you got a ton of leagues. Is he somebody that you were scooping up as one of those potential league winners?
No, I'll say that this is one that I was glad you had on the show sheet, because it kind of got me to look deeper into it. And the Pats right now, second in the league in rushing yards, right? Mm-hmm. Cam is a big part of that, but if you see what happened in Dallas, maybe they pull back on Cam rushing a bit. Maybe whether it's 10% or 15% less per game, maybe some of that goes to the running back. And like we said, guys, the stage is like set right now for Damien Harris. I do think it's capped because you are in New England. You've got guys like White there. You've got guys like Burkhead that out of nowhere will have like a 25-point game. You're like, why is he on my bench while Harris is, starting and he gets 4 points? But that's the New England backfield. Having said that, I mean, it's a good situation, right? For the price that you can get this guy at, I kind of, looking into this, I kind of value him right now. Like, I'd put an offer out. Let's say you're a contender. If you put a second and a third out there to a non-contender, especially those are back-end picks, I think that's a nice fair value. You're not undercutting. And it should get you the Damien Harris share. And look, you might have the RB1 for the New England offense, once Cam comes back going into the rest of the season. So for me, if I can buy a possible workhorse, guy getting enough volume in a good offense with a good defense, this is it, man. This is the best value probably on the board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would pay that second and third for Damien Harris, just because I've been a believer, and he's somebody like Sony Michel's been top 10 in red zone carries for the past couple of seasons and done fuck all with that. And so I think Damien Harris can do a lot more. And on the James White note, with that pass catching upside that we think Damien Harris has, James White is a free agent at the end of this season, and who knows what the Pats are going to do. So I think there is some untapped potential for Damien Harris, and I like how you guys kind of tied that up there for the Pats backfield, because if it's me, that's the only piece that I really want. James White's been kind of inconsistent, so it's all Damien for me. And so I'm liking the prospects, especially for how cheap we got him in our dynasty leagues or potentially our rookie drafts back when we had them. So this one, guys, we're going into the next guy, and this was the biggest news of the weekend. We had the Dak Prescott injury. That broken ankle was nasty looking. As an Eagles fan, you know, I'm never usually upset by a Cowboys injury. I'm not rooting for them by any means, but I'm never usually like upset by one because I realize that it gives my shit team a better chance to potentially move forward in the division. But that's a different story. But this one was really upsetting. Just, I think Dak has been having a great year for fantasy. He was trying to get his money. You really want to see the players get their money. I hope he can still get that. But yeah, we got Andy Dalton coming in, guys, the Red Rifle. You know, he is good for comedic value as far as fantasy football goes. He's had some good fantasy seasons, and he can keep weapons afloat. So Ty, we're going to kick it off with you. First thing, let's get this out of the way. We're selling Dalton in our Superflex leagues if we can. Yeah.
Absolutely not for me. Number one, I just want to give it up to Dak because he really is one of the good guys, a guy who bets on himself, goes out, puts up the jaw-dropping, record-setting numbers. I think he deserves a quick tire pump by us. So Dak had the most passing yards ever through 4 games. Dak was the only quarterback in NFL history to have 3 consecutive 450-yard passing games. He was on pace for 483 completed passes. That would have broken any of Drew Brees' 3 records that he holds. And Dak was on pace for almost 6,000 passing yards. That would obliterate Peyton's record from 2013. So I just want to say that we were totally robbed of history. I will send all those notes to Dak's agent, by the way, so he can that is not bad leverage at the negotiation table, or the negotiation yacht in Dallas, I guess it would be.
Do you think Jerry would know what any of that meant, though? I don't know if Jerry would comprehend any of that.
I think Jerry's pretty hit, man. He's like playing hardball with these players. I think he's
that's fair.
Hit. But honestly, I'm
Kellen
Moore 2020, Trav. Okay. I tell you, I mean,
that's
it's all about Kellen Moore here. Seriously, though, this team, they're kind of just racing boats out there, and they're already dogs against Arizona in Week 6. And it's a dynamic passing game. That's what's going on in Dallas. Dalton, like, he's never had weapons like this. We could even argue that AJ Green, Marvin Jones, and Tyler Eifert were humming once upon a time with the Bengals there. And we could remember how much success Andy Dalton had with those weapons, with that array of weapons at his disposal, obviously not including playoffs there. But I'm just saying it's been a dream fantasy team to attach to in Dallas here. Only Seattle is a higher scoring offense. Cowboys are scoring over 32 points per game. They have almost 2,500 yards on offense. They're on pace to break the 2011 record from the New Orleans Saints for yards on offense. So yeah, the Red Rifle, he comes in, shoots all those dreams directly in the face, but that doesn't mean that he can't go and be a top 15 quarterback for fantasy. I'd almost guarantee he will be from this point on. I mean, Dallas leads the NFL in completed air yards. They also lead the NFL in yards after the catch. So they've been able to win both ways. So if the deep passing is something that Dalton can't handle, they'll just let the weapons, I think, do the work after the catch in Dallas. And with all the pre-snap motion, all the creativity in this offense, and with them being such a bad defense, I just think the Cowboys will continue to be the fastest offense in the league, and they're also 3rd in yards per play. So, you know, I know the pace comes with an asterisk, Trav, because they're tied with your Eagles for the league in turnovers. Dallas is barely led. They've basically been trailing all season long, but that might not change with Andy D at the helm, right behind the wheel. They could need Dalton to be throwing the ball. So give me the weapons. Give me Dalton as like a back-end quarterback 15, and he gets the Cardinals in Week 6. In a game they're projected to lose, and they just lost one of the best pass rushers in the league in Chandler Jones as well in Arizona.
Totally. Hey, that's nice. That's totally contrary to what I thought the consensus would be on Andy Dalton. I like that. A lot of people are thinking that they're going to make that offense a little bit more conservative and run through Zeke, Ty, but it kind of sounds like you think they're just going to keep it humming along, and I think that's kind of why they brought Andy Dalton in. So Dan, I want you to tell me who this Andy Dalton offense is going to hurt the most. So is Andy Dalton going to come in, as Ty said, and keep it humming, or do you think somebody's going to take a big dip as far as fantasy production?
You know, I obviously we can't really expect that he's going to stay on a 6,000 yard pace or anything like that, you know, so it's fair to ask where is the hit going to come from? And I don't know the answer to that, you know, right off the bat. You know, one of the places where I know it's going to come in is just the fact that Andy Dalton has always had that ability to just throw in a real stinker every once in a while. That's just, you know, like completely out of the blue, and you're just like, what even happened there? You know, he can absolutely have some terrible games, and that's where, you know, some of that 6,000 yard shine is going to come off. They're just, you know, he's going to have some of those games. But that said, yeah, I think, you know, he's a guy who's shown that he knows how to use his weapons and use them well. He knows how to distribute the ball. And, you know, so I'm not looking for necessarily any one player to have, you know, like a huge downturn. You know, if I had to pick one, I would probably pick Gallup, just because I think he's the, you know, the more limited of the three weapons. I think he's an extremely good receiver. I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, but when you're up against Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, you know, the competition is awfully high there. So, you know, I would kind of look at him as probably being the one to fade the most. But I don't mind having Dalton in, you know, like a couple leagues where I lost Dak. I'm looking for Dalton to be one of my top replacements. I'm hoping that I get him in waivers tonight. I had a couple teams that losing Dalton or losing Dak was dream crushing, because these were, you know, these were big leagues with big payouts, and I had great teams, you know, led by Dak, and all of a sudden to lose him, it was just like I had to take a minute on Sunday when that happened. I mean, I felt terrible for Dak, and then after I got over that, I started feeling terrible for myself, and you know, I was just like, man, it really sucked. It bummed me out for a while.
Totally. It kind of reminded me of the Earl Thomas situation in Seattle, where Earl Thomas was waiting to get his money. And, you know, just a testament to Ty saying that Dak is the nice guy. He didn't flip any birds over to the sideline or anything like that. But I think it would have been well-deserved if he decided to do that. And you actually make one more great point there, Dan, that anybody who's watching, make sure you hit the waiver wire tonight. With that Tuesday game that we had, most platforms have pushed their waivers into Wednesday night. So Thursday morning is the day that we'll wake up and see if we got our guys or not. So make sure you get in there tonight and check your waivers, everybody. That was definitely a great call out, and just kind of a product of a really weird season that we're going to. So JD, before we ride into the next guy, how do you think the Andy Dalton starting spot affects Zeke? Do you think it has much effect? Do you think he might get more targets, more carries? What are you thinking?
See, I think that I actually think it's kind of a wash for me, just because of the defense. If they had a better defense, I think that they'll definitely lean on him more. But I think because of this defense and how horrid it is, I think similar to what Dan said, I mean, you're talking about a guy, I was looking at his numbers. Look, guys, he was in Cincinnati, and in 7 weeks in 2019, he was I guess QB 15 or better. I was going to say QB 1, but he's QB 15 or better, which for, again, where his price is and what you're expecting, you add the weapons that he has. For me, the only difference here is you now have an opportunity to buy guys like CeeDee Lamb, which prior to the injury, you're not buying him unless you're ready to get the house. Now, if you can find an owner that even thinks this is affecting these guys by 10, 15, 20%, I mean, I'm all over that. I'm buying these guys at a discount. I'm higher on Dalton than most, just even before this whole scenario. So with this, now him sitting in, you know, it's like you just put him into a Ferrari for the first time. He was driving like a Honda, you know, in the previous races. So to me, I think we're going to see an Andy Dalton earn a contract, maybe not in Dalton, not in Dallas, but maybe somewhere else once he's done in Dallas. And look, I mean, I'm kind of happy for the guy. You know, I'm happy for the Red Rocket, man. I'm happy he's getting this opportunity. And like I said, I'm happy for myself, because whether it's Zeke, whether it's CeeDee, whether it's Cooper, for me, this is huge opportunity. If your league mates are thinking this offense is going to take a hit, to go buy these guys.
Yeah, like I don't think it's 2016 anymore, guys. Like, it's not an elite number one overall offensive line anymore. That is gone. It is not the same Zeke Elliott, to be honest. He has 0 games with 100 yards rushing this season. He's never had a 6-game stretch in his career with under 100 yards. So, you know, his saving grace is that he's on pace for career highs across the board in the passing game. And with the game scripts, it's not supernatural. And I think it's also fairly sustainable. And also, that's why I think we're attacking this wide receiver room. It's why I'm higher on Andy Dalton. And, you know, I just can't stress that we want Kellen Moore over Marvin Lewis calling plays. Like, it's just going to be a better set of weapons, a better guy calling plays and everything. And we haven't even started to do justice on what these wide receivers have accomplished in Dallas. I know Dak has overshadowed a lot of it. All three of these guys, it's a Madden offense, guys. They're all on pace for 1,000-yard receiving seasons. It's like one of my 14-year-old Madden franchises. And I'm telling you, man, like both CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, top 10 in receiving right now. Both are wide receiver ones in fantasy football. So Dalton, I know, supporting multiple wide receivers for fantasy. That's a tough pill to swallow. But what I think happens is kind of what Dan was alluding to, and that's that all these guys will just accentuate what we already know about them. So someone like Amari is going to go into old school Amari mode, which he's already been. I mean, he's a top 12 wide receiver, like I said, but he's only scored as a wide receiver once out of 5 weeks so far this year. So, you know, my perception doesn't change on Amari. It's still same old Amari. And I think Michael Gallup is going to be, he might be a solar eclipse, but he sure had Dalton's eye on that final drive when he came in to replace Dak Prescott.
Very
in week
nice.
5.
I was gonna say my buy right now, just to kind of slip it in really quick, Ty, is Gallup. I don't exactly. If you watched that game last week, Dalton was all over Gallup, and Gallup made the key catches. Like the dude along that sideline. I mean, he made some serious catches, and considering the dip his value took before Dalton came in, for me, this is perfect opportunity to go out there and buy Dalton. And I'm selling Zeke, selling the narrative that the offense is going to go through the running game.
Yep.
And I think you nailed it there with Gallup. Like, it's Dalton plus the offense. Like, these two, Amari Cooper and Gallup, have almost the same amount of air yards right now, even though the target share is nowhere on the same page. But Michael Gallup is seeing the far easier coverage. And if Andy Dalton doesn't want to attack a team's opposing cornerbacks, top cornerbacks, which, you know, Amari Cooper has struggled against, you know, historically anyways, I think Michael Gallup stands to win in that situation. But guys, the guy I think gets the biggest boost is CeeDee Lamb. He quietly leads this team in receiving right now. Lamb sits 5th in the NFL in receiving, and it's another what could have been, but I think this one is less of a pipe dream than anything I've mentioned. CeeDee Lamb is on pace for 1,386 receiving yards. That would be the most receiving yards by a rookie in NFL history post-merger, ahead of Anquan Bolden, Randy Moss, Odell Beckham Jr., aka Good Company. And there's a couple reasons, and I'll go to bat for Lamb really hard here under Andy Dalton. And Trav, we hammered both of these points during the draft process and the offseason. Number one would be the red zone, the end zone niche that he's come in and assumed immediately in Dallas. CeeDee Lamb has 4 end zone targets right now. The rest of the Cowboys combined have 5, and nobody has more than 1 right now. And number 2 is the slot roll, Trav. We really hammered on that. If CeeDee Lamb got to play in the slot in Dallas, it was wheels up right away, and he's playing over 90% of the snaps there. And if we just halt there, I've now described 2 things that Dalton has loved during his career. So I'm just, and then if we get, you know, back on board the CeeDee Lamb hype train, he's leading the league in targets, catches, and receiving yards from the slot. So I'll have the Lamb, please. And if dynasty owners have it on the menu, like, I'll pay whatever the price is there for sure. And I like the thought about Zeke too. Like, I'm selling Zeke on the narrative too. I know it's almost impossible with CMC out and all these people to drop him below top 5, but in a dynasty setting, he makes for the ultra, you know, rebuild mode. If you want to turn your roster over and you need to get over that hump, but you're kind of stuck because you have Zeke and you feel like you should be in win now mode, that's the kind of move that I love making right around now. And I think Dalton Schultz is the guy who's going to take the big hit. He's been very involved. And I think he's the guy who's just going to take the hit. I think Michael Gallup will be a little bit of a solar eclipse. CeeDee Lamb will be great. And Amari Cooper will fuck you once every 3 weeks.
I just want to throw in on the Zeke thing with guys like Barkley and CMC right now on the sidelines. Now is the opportunity to maximize. Go to those owners and you know, squeeze as much as you can. Even guys like Jacobs on bye this week, just go to those owners and see if you can sell him Zeke at his perceived, you know, new raised value.
Yeah, that's perfect. JD, give me a goat on that before we ride out of the Andy Dalton talk. There it is.
Yeah, we went long on that, eh?
That's
the truth.
There we go.
Beautiful.
We need the captain now.
That's awesome. No, and it's okay.
I brought all my toys.
That's awesome. I'm glad you did. And it's good that we went a little bit long on that because there's a little bit more to unpack, right? We were talking about running backs before in Jonathan Taylor, but this guy, Andy Dalton, is going to affect all the weapons in some way, shape, or form, good, bad, or indifferent. So those are the ones that we want to dig into a little bit harder. So I appreciate the insight you guys provided on that. And we're going to move into the next one here, guys. This one, Dan, we're starting with this one. This one is near and dear to you as a Minnesotan. This may be maybe more of a good time than a long time for this guy, but we got Dalvin Cook ruled out of Sunday's game. So we got Alex Madison we're going to talk about. He's coming in for Dalvin. There is a bye week after this week. But this kind of brought me to sort of a philosophical question before we get into the Alex Madison talk. Dan, do you subscribe to handcuffing your stud running backs, or is it just kind of a take a chance and hope you can get those guys on waivers or find some other form of replacement?
For the most part, I play in deeper leagues, even in redraft, where you're not going to find an Alexander Madison or anything like that out on the waiver wire. And so for that reason, if I see that it's going to be a clear handcuff to a clear workhorse role, then that's going to be the kind of guy that I'm going to go ahead and handcuff. So like a Madison onto a Cook for sure. A Pollard onto Zeke Elliott for sure, Latavius Murray onto Kamara for sure. But then you get into like Saquon, and everything's fuzzy back there, and that's where I'm just like, you know what? If I took Saquon, I'm going to ride Saquon, and I'm not going to worry about trying to get either one of them. I would rather take some more upside shots somewhere else, and just because if Saquon goes down, I'm not going to find a replacement for Saquon on that Giants roster. There's going to be no one who can put up those points. So, if I'm going to find an alternate path to victory, it's not going to be through his backup.
And so, Dan, I'm just going to stick with you for 1 sec real quick. Being that you are so close to the team, and I'm sure you watch all the Vikings games there, Alex Madison is going to give us what % of what we got from Dalvin Cook, if that makes sense. So is he going to be 80%? Is he going to be 90%? What do you think there?
110%.
I mean, he
Madison's
could.
getting a lot of work. He
is getting a lot of work. And see, the thing is Cook was getting spelled by Madison, who is really, really good. And Madison is going to get spelled by, I love Mike Boone. I love his athleticism, but, let's be realistic. It's going to be the Madison show. I think he's going to get even a higher percentage of the touches than what Cook got for this next week. And, if he's also one of those guys that, he's done really well in the role. So we've seen him succeed. There really hasn't been hardly any drop off at all from Madison or from Cook to Madison, and Madison has actually gotten, I think, more targets, if I remember right, than what Cook has gotten. And, that plays well also. I think if we see Boone in there, he's going to be more likely as spelling him as a runner rather than spelling him as a receiver. So that bodes well for what Madison can give us too. So I'm very wheels up on Madison this week. And the other thing is with Cook, when he gets hurt, he seems to struggle getting back to full health because he keeps trying to push it and get back too soon. And, if it's one of those cases, we could see Madison have some decent long-term value as well. So, don't just trade him off to the Cook owner if all of a sudden you fell into value there. I think you might want to hold him and see if he can carry it on a little bit longer.
Yeah, well, that's actually brings me into my next question perfectly. And JD, I'm gonna kick it to you first. Is what are you doing with Alex Madison? Because it looks like it's going to be a bit of a short time with Dalvin coming back, but we know Dalvin's injury history. So are you going to be playing off of that and what could be a nice game from him in week 6 to try and sell him to the highest bidder? Or is he somebody you're holding as someone who could get some meaningful work throughout the next 2 to 3 years with Dalvin's injury history?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to your first question that you and just with because I think it's relevant. For me, I prefer having handcuffs from running backs I don't have on my team. Right. So if I have Madison, I don't have Cook. If I have Pollard, I don't have Zeke. And the reason is I want to hold these guys when their values pop so that I can move them. And right now for me, I don't have any Madison if I own them. the hype, like just the expectation of his production, right? The chances of him hitting the perceived perception or production this coming week, and while Cook is out, is probably greater than what he's actually going to produce. And that's what we've seen historically with, like Dan said, these kind of backup running backs. So for me, when guys hold a lot more value than they should, and look, he might have an awesome next couple of weeks. But for me, if you own Madison, this is why you held them, and this is why you sell them. On the other side of that, if you look at LA, for example, the Rams, Henderson and Akers, that might be like one of the only exceptions right now. I just made a recent trade where I sent Juju a first and a second for Akers, Henderson, and AJ Brown in a league, because I want to grab whoever's going to pop in that offense. Because I feel like whether they're playing the hot hand and I can play whoever I want, or one guy takes over, either way, I'm going to come out of there with an RB1 production with those guys. But with Madison and Cook, when you're holding him, yeah, okay, you can pop your Madison in. But for me, again, if I'm holding Madison and now is the time, you got to sell him now. Like this is the time for me where I'm moving a guy like Madison, or where I'm moving that backup running back, that handcuff that you're holding. Once the time to shine is there, I prefer to do it before they shine sometimes, where the perceived value outweighs what they might actually do on the field. So I don't know if you guys agree with that, but that's where I'm at with a guy like Madison, because I like waiver wire, I'm grabbing Boone cheap. There's a really good chance that they split this thing going into next week.
Yeah, I mean, I've still got a Booner, so I'm picking him up.
5 snaps. He only played 5 snaps. I think I've been the biggest Mike Boone supporter, Trav.
Yes, you have. Yeah,
but Madison separated, I think. At least it seems like he has, per the coaching staff. What is that hotel called? Is there a hotel named the Radisson? It's too snooty. Do business at the Radisson. Change it to the
Radisson. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we should call this guy, is Alexander Radisson, because it's a perfect analogy. He's going to be luxurious. He's going to be cushy for one.
It's not a Holiday Inn
week,
Express,
and then if you don't own Dalvin Cook, you're back to your domicile of a running back room, right? Probably after the week 7 bye, as you alluded to, Mr. Steele. But I also want to say that Dalvin Cook's paid now, so maybe they do not rush him back for once in a lifetime, and we'll see how that works out. But I think Madison is teetering on standalone value anyways. I just wanted to throw that out there because he's been involved, and the situation is right. The Kubiak scheme, it just provides so much free yardage, and Madison is top 10. He's only behind Raheem Mostert actually right now in yards before contact per attempt. Also finished top 10 last year in yards before contact per attempt. So you add in the fact that there's tons of high leverage work to be had in this offense for a running back. Yeah. Madison is really teetering on that standalone value because Dalvin's never going to play those 75% snaps. And I kind of wanted to throw my hat in the ring for the handcuff thing because it's really just rolling in what Dan and JD said. But somebody like Latavius Murray, Chase Edmonds, I think these are guys that we drafted a lot of in best balls because of that upside, not because we had the first player from that running back room on our roster. But, you know, it's a numbers game. I took a lot of Boston Scott too, and that one's just not working out because, to be honest, like I don't move a running back 2 up in a specific offense, you know, up my draft board in fantasy just because I took that running back 1. I think it's, you know, the easiest way to put it is just that you're taking shots on these guys. It's just a numbers game, and having the player in front of a specific running back on your roster doesn't increase the odds that any one given player will hit, right? It just serves to insulate your roster. But, you know, I've always thought, and I know JD, because I've been a fan of yours a long time, you think the same way along these lines because of your poker background. There's a fine line between logic and winning leagues in fantasy football. And I think handcuffing is kind of the safe move, but your roster doesn't really ever improve by handcuffing. If your stud goes down, you know, you're pretty much fucked no matter what. But if you have a few high-end running back handcuffs rounding out your roster and an injury makes them relevant, you're adding that guy to your existing pieces, essentially a free startable asset to trade away like JD suggested, or sometimes they can turn into a league-winning player on your own roster. So I think that's the interesting thing. I want to ask you, though, Dan, do you think I'm off basis, or do you think Madison can develop a role where he becomes somebody that we can start in deep rosters that might be, you know, point per first down or something?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's somebody that is going to develop, you know, as you said, he's already becoming semi-startable. And, you know, this may encourage the coaching staff to take a little bit more off of Cook's plate and put a little bit more onto Madison's plate. he's certainly been explosive, and as you mentioned, his yards before contact have been just fantastic. So for those reasons, he's somebody that like I say, I don't mind holding him at all. He's like a Jamal Williams last year, but better.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah, somebody you can toss in there, and you know what, he might only get you 5 points, but he also might get you 20 points. Totally. And guys like that definitely have a value, especially when you're talking about deeper leagues. So, he's a guy I don't mind hanging on to. And your point is exactly right on, like the handcuff doesn't really increase, you never get any better from a handcuff. And that's why in best ball, I tend to do exactly what you were talking about, and I'm constantly grabbing those backups, and I'm making sure they're not the backups to my own guys. It's just in the redraft leagues. Sometimes again, if you've got that clear handcuff, then it does make a little bit more sense to grab that handcuff, but that doesn't stop you from grabbing other people's handcuffs or, any other upside running backs as well. So you can, in the redrafts, I think you can kind of have your cake and eat it too a little bit with those backup running backs. You want to grab wide receivers and kind of that, those late single digit rounds, mid to late single digit rounds, and then start hammering those running backs in the 10 to 15 round range, because that's where you're going to find most of your league winners at.
And it's where you're not going to find any other positions hitting like the running back position.
For sure.
Right. Yeah. Occasional wide receiver, but yeah, your chances are probably better at running back.
The problem in a lot of those cases, and especially in best ball, is you're just capping your upside, right? Like if you can have Mike Davis and Al Sanders running right now, and like a couple starters, whereas if you have just your own handcuff, you're just capping, right? Like you can't have two of those guys going at the same time.
Right.
Yeah, because you're fighting hit rates at that point. And it's hard to win a fantasy league when your first round pick is not on your team. It's just something that rarely happens. And I just wanted to mention, I think the trajectory I was kind of suggesting with Alexander Mattison is I think he's on that Latavius Murray kind of path. This guy is tied since being drafted for the fewest amount of touchdowns of any running back with 150 plus touches, Alexander Mattison. And the Vikings are averaging over 6 red zone rush attempts by running backs per game right now. Well, it's only behind the Cleveland Browns. They had over 21 running back red zone rush attempts compared to any other team last year. 21 more than any other team last year. So I think he could start getting into the end zone. I know that it is a little bit by design, like the closer in they get, the more they're going to give Dalvin Cook the ball. But I just think, like, if and when Dalvin Cook misses, there's touchdown explosions coming for Alexander Mattison. And I think he could even be punching these in on a best ball roster in 2021, a la Latavius Murray, in a pretty sexy situation. You mentioned the matchup before the bye week. It's Atlanta, I think you said. Yeah. So that's a layup matchup, and they actually just completely bleed their fantasy points at the running back position through the passing game. So I just wanted to mention that about 25% of the Vikings pass attempts are going to the running back position right now. It's just been extremely hard to tell because Minnesota joins Baltimore as one of only 2 teams in the NFL right now throwing the ball under 30 times per game. So that is very low volume. If Dalvin were to miss an extended period of time, I think we would have to, ask questions about this entire offense, whether it's play action, deep shots, whatever. There's just so much to dig into, like a tick when it comes to this offense. These 2 wide receivers having success in such a low volume passing game, the tight ends getting completely shunned. There's just so much to go into. But as long as Dalvin and Alexander Mattison are there, Kubiak is going to do his thing.
The Cougs. Very, very good discussion, gentlemen. I like that we got into a little bit of philosophy talk there. And I think that's really good to get into, especially in this season where taking shots on those second string running backs can pay off for you, maybe more so than any other season with the attrition, with COVID, with games getting moved, all that stuff. I think that was really good points for us to touch on. And so I think with that, we can probably move into our next and last guy of the replacement players. Another quarterback, so a little bit to unravel here, and that would be the rookie Justin Herbert, who has, he's taken the league a little bit by storm, and unfortunate circumstances for him taking over after the team doctor decides to stab Tyrod in the lung with a friggin' needle.
Bring Dr. Chow back.
Yeah, no doubt. Get Doc Chow back in that. But
get Edwin Porras in there. Get a real doctor.
Will's in the comments. Yeah, Will's in the comments there saying he's officially been shunned and censored. Yeah, this is the last comment you will ever see from Will Harris on this podcast. So no, I'm kidding, buddy. Just having a hard time keeping track of the comments with this fire content. These guys are banging out. So Justin Herbert, obviously, to get us back on track, has looked fantastic. He's the quarterback 16 overall and the quarterback 8 in points per game right now. So that is stellar work from a rookie who we thought was really raw. Go give me an air horn, brother. Give me an air horn.
Man.
That was fantastic, Ty. Well put. So really quick, I want to go around the horn and just give ask a little bit of a first glance dynasty quarterback ranking for Justin Herbert. And in the show notes, I was just spitballing little nicknames for him, and I called him Herb and Garlic. So Ty, as far as dynasty quarterback rankings, I don't know why I gave him Herb and Garlic, but where would you put Herb's as far as dynasty quarterback rankings right now?
Well, shout out to the Super Friends crew. We always called, like, you remember, if someone's like permafried, just smoked too much weed in their life, we would call him a Herb Kid growing up. So yeah, that's what we've just been calling him Herb Kid.
I'm down for that.
Yeah, I mean, he's easily a quarterback too. That's a pretty cop-out answer for me, but it's easy to forget that this guy was not going as a top 24 quarterback in Superflex startup drafts this offseason, which is just crazy to me. Obviously, we would be buying high on Justin Herbert and Superflex, even at quarterback 2 prices. So maybe I'll say I'm buying what he's doing out there right now more than I am for his fantasy stock. But I think he's ahead of Tua in my books, and that was not the case heading into 2020. I honestly didn't get the gap, though, between the two. Once he was drafted top 10, the draft capital was there. I don't understand why the margin was so much deviation there. And the big 10-inch dick beaters, Trav, we always love those for the quarterbacks, but Herbert had the super rare young breakout age. He had the dual fantasy threat, like the big arm and the rushing profile. I think the upside with the legs we all love. Like, that was the ticket for me. I mean, when he broke 4.7 on the gun at 6'6", 230 pounds, I was in. And people, they weren't lying about this kid's arm. Like, I mean, he had a very high ADOT, great, deep passer rating on deep balls in college, but seeing it play out so early in his career on the big stage, it's just wild to me. And since that was Tua's ticket to fame, in my opinion, it's impossible to have Herbert behind Tua at this point. If, Herbert has that big deep ball, and he comes with that rushing upside that I don't think Tua does. And Herb Kid sure looks like he's got that deep ball. He has 3 touchdown passes of 50-plus yards already. That's the most in the NFL. 4 was the most by any quarterback last year. Only 7 signal callers had as many 50-yard touchdown passes in all of 2019 as Herbert has in 4 games to start his career right now. And speaking of starting his career, before I go off here, no quarterback in NFL history has ever started their season their career with back-to-back 300-yard passing games. Herbert had the chance to do that 10 yards shy with the ball, and he threw a fucking pick in week 4. So, my bottom line is that Justin Herbert, he looks special, and his ceiling for fantasy, I think, is huge. The early production in the deep passing arena is exactly what we wanted to see, because we haven't seen that secret weapon yet. And it's always important to remember with young quarterbacks, like, Herbert will have ups and downs. He's in a peak right now. So when he does go into valleys, we're hoping that he can compensate and really let those legs, he's got legs, and he knows how to use them. So I want to see them get used at some point.
Great song. Great song. ZZ Top is never a bad reference, Ty. So well met on that. Goat, I'm going to come down to you, my man. Would you who do you think suffers from him being in there? Or does anybody suffer? Because it seems like that running back, the rushing production has been pretty inconsistent since I don't think it necessarily is a product of Herbert. But do you think they're going to be more open to slinging it and not necessarily running the ball, Goat? Or what's your take on the Herbert effect or the Herb Kid effect on the offense? Is it a little bit hazed or what?
Well, I think it's a little bit hazed for many reasons, right? You got their top running back that's injured. There's a lot of different factors here. I think anytime you have a new quarterback come in, same thing like we talked about in Dallas, at the end of the day, we don't really know where they're going to gravitate. So for me, you're looking at a quarterback that's top 10 in a lot of different stats right now. And, if you're looking at yards per attempt, he's the 5th QB, adjusted yards per attempt, fantasy points per dropback, fantasy points per game. So you're looking at a top 10. For me, he's top 10 in Dynasty when I'm ranking my quarterbacks. I've got him in top 10. Like you talked about the gap between him and Tua. For me, that gap has been annihilated with what this guy's shown. For me, once you've shown what you can do in the NFL as a rookie, it kind of takes away any of, like with Tua, there's still that uncertainty. We don't really know. I'll take Herbert over Tua right now with the weapons that he has, what he's established there. And the thing you got to remember is, first of all, if you look at the Chargers when they had Old Man Rivers there last year, they were the 10th highest team in pass attempts in 2019. So it's not like they have to make huge adjustments with this new gunslinger quarterback. The only reason they had a different game plan coming in is because TT Coop was the starting QB. And anyone who's played fantasy before did not even take that into consideration coming into the season. You know what I mean? Like you pretty much knew that Herbert at some point in the first half of the season was then going to come in. You didn't think it was because, he gets stabbed by his own GP or whatever happened.
No, but it is a foregone conclusion for quarterbacks drafted in the top 10. Like I'm talking almost 95% of them play with it. They play 10 plus games in the rookie year. So it's like you think of Daniel Jones last year, who nobody thought was going to start in his rookie year. Like it always happens.
Mm-hmm. Dan, what's your take on Herbert and his insertion into the lineup?
Yeah. So, I mean, with Herbert and really with any quarterback, I'm not a big eye test guy, but when it comes to quarterback, I kind of am, just because I like to see, just how they move around, how they're handling the whole situation. And, when you watch a guy like Herbert, you're watching a guy who's, he's extending plays pretty effortlessly. And, he doesn't look frantic, when things break down in front of him. He knows how to move around, and you look at, he was really keying on Keenan Allen, but then all of a sudden Keenan Allen goes out and what's he do? Boom, Mike Williams, your time to shine. It didn't phase him at all. He just moved right on to the next target, and you see him, just back there, actually trying to make reads and process reads. Like if I look at him versus a Jared Goff, for example, I've got him above Goff already in Dynasty because, Goff just, you watch him back there and Goff has got to have everything just right in front of him to succeed. Whereas Herbert, you're looking at him and you're going, this is a guy who can, when the play breaks down or things aren't exactly as he thought they were going to be, he's going to figure out a way to make it happen, whether it's with his legs or he's going to make a big time throw downfield or, he's going to go off to his, tertiary target or whatever. He's going to do something and he's going to make it work. Whereas Goff is just like completely lost if, if the primary read breaks down. So that's what I like about Herbert. When I see those kind of qualities in a quarterback, I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. I would, I'll grab a piece of that. We're still not seeing that out of Baker Mayfield. We're still not seeing that out of Sam Darnold, and you see that out of it right out of the box. I mean, he got out there and just bam, he started doing this right away. Russ Wilson style.
And like you're saying, like it doesn't have to be in a clean pocket. It doesn't have to be on play action. It doesn't have to be just so rigidly put in place for him. I love how you mentioned that. It's so true that that's what you want to see from a quarterback is the presence of mind and the poise. And I think that's just so well put. What do you guys think about these running backs? Do you think Joshua Kelly can have success alongside Justin Herbert? Or do you think because of the way this offense operates, you think it's kind of an either or? Like, is his role going to be, I didn't get in the Damian Harris discussion, but I think that role is just totally overblown. I want the pass catcher all day, every day in these running back rooms. I want the elusive running back. I don't want the early down banger. And I think that goes with Joshua Kelly, who's basically having a season that mirrors Frank Gore, except he's had two supremely important fumbles in weeks 3 and 4. So do you guys have any worry that Joshua Kelly could just go away because he has so much fanfare right now? What do you guys think about?
Go ahead, JD.
I just think with Eckler out, you've got an opportunity there, right? It's I feel like you touched a bit on how this offense is going to be with Herbert. It's kind of like, I'm not going to say he's Brady, but it's kind of like in a Brady offense, you want to be his number one target or one of his main targets. I think it's going to be similar here now with Herbert, right? Whether it's Mike Williams, whether it's Allen, whether it's Eckler, whether it's Justin Jackson or whoever comes in and takes over that role, you want whoever is going to be prominent as one of those top 3 targets. And I still think Kelly still can produce in this offense and take a prominent role, and maybe him and Jackson split. I think the problem is that depending on how much time Eckler is out for, Because when Eckler comes back, let's face it, he's earned, he's earned kind of what he's got in that offense, and it's kind of hard to replace. Because I mean, let's face it, dude's jacked. Dude he's gonna
He
come.
might be
back.
the most unique player I've ever seen in my life.
He totally is.
He's done things that nobody else did at the running back position in the last couple of years. Yeah.
100%. He's kind of like I said it, while he's kind of like a sleeper Christian McCaffrey in a way. Like he can do things that McCaffrey can do, but he doesn't hold that value yet. Anyways, right? So
it's a little bit Jamal Charles-ish.
Exactly. Like super high efficiency, not necessarily like. Again, my worry is that guys like Kelly or Jackson prove enough while Eckler is gone to make it even more cloudy. I kind of almost hope like these guys don't, succeed well enough so that Eckler does stay there. But look, I think it's going to become one of these offenses that he's a young quarterback, guys. He's in week 5 of his career. You're going to want parts of it. Kind of what we were saying about Dallas 3-4 weeks ago. You want parts of it. You're going to want parts of it. And I always say in the backfield, you never really know. So go for the cheaper option, right? And for me right now, that's probably Jackson, because Kelly's had a bit of hype, even before the Eckler injury. So I always like to go for the cheapest option. And for me, JJ is that option.
I like that. I think, Ty, just to your question there, I was going to pipe in that I think the biggest issue for Josh Kelly being able to do that is the fact that the team really likes Justin Jackson. I was watching that game last week kind of while I was doing stuff, but every time I would look, it was 22 in there, not 27. So I think they really like using Justin Jackson. And as long as Austin Eckler is not there, I think he may be on the heavy end of this workload, even though I saw some really, really nice things from Kelly early in the season. Like they might have sort of a Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler role for Kelly to jump into, but he hasn't really shown that he was going to do that though. Like I thought he was going to get some of those red zone carries like what Melvin Gordon was going to get. And, a good enough first and second down banger role with some targets like we've seen in that offense where Melvin Gordon was getting 45 and Austin Eckler's getting like 90 or whatever it is. So I thought we were going to have that. Hasn't really materialized, which is totally fine because Josh Kelly was super cheap. But I think for me, while Eckler is out, it's Justin Jackson that's the biggest problem for Josh Kelly.
See, I felt like Joshua Kelly's been ultra expensive. He's a guy that I liked. You can attest to this, Trav, because of his Senior Bowl performance when nobody knew who he was. And I think he's been overvalued ever since he got drafted, to be honest. And I like Joshua Kelly. It's just that he's one-dimensional and he's incredibly inefficient this season. He has a couple fumbles. We haven't seen all three of these guys healthy with Austin Eckler, Justin Jackson, and him. And he has a very easy avenue to being the running back 3 because of what Justin Jackson can do that Joshua Kelly cannot do. I think the upside and what I'll concede is that they have gone back to Joshua Kelly after the fumbles. He actually has all 10 of the red zone carries for the team since Austin Eckler's injury, all 4 of the goal line carries. But Justin Jackson's the guy. I mean, they're splitting snaps since he returned. Justin Jackson actually won that battle, playing 55% of the snaps last week. But why I'm Team JJ is that he's the back who can break off big runs and he can make people miss. Mixing his target per snap rate in his career, I think the team's shown that they like what he can bring in the passing game as well. And if you look on PFF, Joshua Kelly on 71 touches early in his career has just 10 avoided tackles. Justin Jackson has 30 on 133 touches. So that's wiggle. Those are elusive pants that Joshua Kelly will just never wiggle into either. So I have a lot of issues with both these running backs, but I think what I'm saying is these roles are so defined in this backfield that we should just be focusing on Herbert and trying to decide who the fuck to choose between Mike Williams and Hunter Henry on a weekly basis.
JD, it looked like you had a point there. How about
I not to drag this too long, but I think it also depends on where these guys sit on your roster, right? Like if you have a JJ share, and I know like my DD2, anyways, I forget the name of the league, but I'm stacked at running back anyways. I've got like, Derrick Henry, Hunt, Mixon, you name the starting running backs, I've got them. And if you've got a JJ like as your RB 5 or 6 at the end of that, and right now his value sparked up and you got him super cheap, for me, because of the fluctuation at the position, I don't mind moving a guy like that to maybe whether it's a rebuild or a guy that needs depth as a contender, as the perceived value. If you can move running backs at perceived value when these opportunities come up, because look, we have no idea what's going to happen next week, right? And the guys like that with lower draft capital and lower value coming into these opportunities, for me, once they're peaking like this, it's a great time to move, because even if he does produce at what the expectancy is, what is his value trade wise? Is it going to be similar to what it is now? Then you might as well move him now before the value has a chance to drop.
Mm-hmm. Those are great guys to tack on to a deal to put it over the edge and get that
People love Kelly.
Yeah, for sure. So I like that, guys. I think that was really well put. So before we finish this up and move into I got 5 on it with Monkey Knife Fight, JD, I want to let a little bit of a cat out of the bag, buddy. We've been talking over the last couple of weeks, and we were just talking about the Justin Herbert Dynasty ranking. So it kind of sparked my triggered my memory here. JD is actually going to be bringing his rankings over to TrueNorthFFB.com. So we're really excited to announce that. Honestly, JD, I've been trying to find avenues for us to work together for
my Batman transition.
That's good. That's good.
I never find a reason to use it, so I had to use it now. You know?
Absolutely. So I mean, I've been trying to find avenues for us to get in and do some work together for a while, and this was one. Unfortunately, it came out of our friends over at DHH closing their site down, but I've talked to Tyler over there, and everything he said is that it's a really good move for them. So we wish them all the best over at DHH, and we just happened to reap the rewards. I saw that happen. I knew you had your rankings up there, so I shot off a DM, and we're super fired up. So keep an eye out on that at TrueNorthFFB.com for JD to be bringing his ranks over, and we're going to be trying to keep those updated and keep some content flowing out of them. So it's going to be really exciting to have you over on the True North site, JD.
For sure, man. I'm glad to be part of the team, and shout out to Tyler for bringing me on and giving me the opportunity. I always say it just motivated me to keep my rankings more up to date. And, unfortunately, but fortunately again, because, you focus on things to make them better, and maybe you spread yourself thin. And I think that's just kind of what happened there. But shout out to Tyler, man. He's building something great over there at DHH. And it might not be on the website, but if you check out the visuals and the podcast, they're bringing out a ton of good content. And we hope to do the same thing by dropping the rankings up here in the True North.
Yeah. Big shout out to Tyler over at DHH. Anybody who doesn't know, that stands for Dynasty Happy Hour. You can find them at Dynasty HH Pod on Twitter. Go give them a follow and check out their shows. All right, guys. So really quick before we get into the I Got 5 on it section, I am just going to talk a little bit about our sponsor, Monkey Knife Fight. So Monkey Knife Fight, if you want the best player prop games in the industry, jump onto Monkey Knife Fight. They're sweeping the nation right now, and at True North, we couldn't be more proud to be doing it alongside them. They got games for all sports, all skill levels, and they're sure to keep you on the edge of your seat. One thing that I really like is that I can put in a buy-in on some dog shit NFL game, and I am on the edge of my seat watching that game to see if these guys hit or miss whatever line that I went in on. So there's lots of opportunities for winnings to pile up. And with our promo code TNFF, Monkey Knife Fight will match your first deposit up to $50. So if you sign up now with our promo code, you can get up to 50 bones worth of free money and start making some bank. Again, that's monkeyknifefight.com, and the promo code is TNFF at your first deposit. So thanks to Nick and the crew over at Monkey Knife Fight. We really appreciate them. And it's been a great partnership so far, and we're looking forward to much more in the future. So guys, Monkey Knife Fight, I got 5 on it. Really quick, Ty, I am going to bring you out of this game because I'm fairly certain that you'll know it. Who sings the song, the early 90s rap song, I Got 5 on It, gentlemen?
'Cause I got 5 on it.
Messing with that endo weed.
Wow, going radio edit, eh?
Yeah, we got to keep it. Well, I guess we're dropping F-bombs or whatever.
Is that Nate Dogg?
That is not. No. Ty, who is it?
Bad Boy
Nope.
Entertainment. Well,
Who is it?
It's
Or are they-
Lunez.
Yeah,
Like
Loonies.
Lunez is whose album it's on, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't know they were Bad Boy though, so that's new information to me. So
Actually,
thank you for
maybe
that.
it's not. Maybe I'm mixing up.
I thought they were with Master P at No Limit.
Maybe. Who
I
sings
think they
the
were.
chorus of "I Need a Girl"?
Usher.
Dan, bust it.
Isn't it Usher?
I'm doing my best Chris Farley over here.
Yeah. idea.
It's a solid, like, there's B movies, but this would be like a C rap song.
Ooh, I think that's a little harsh, but I digress.
Is it? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great song if you ask me.
But it's definitely a party track.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. So I'm going to share my screen here. I got 5 on it. Is a pretty simple cut and dry segment. We jump into a DFS prop game on Monkey Knife Fight. You can see the screen there. And we are going to decide. We usually play the more or less game, and that's what we are going to continue for this epi, guys. And I found a really nice line for us to jump into. It's a simple one. There's only 2 guys, but I think it's going to be some really good analysis. So as you can see there, we're moving into the Sunday games with no Thursday nights game this week. And we're going to hone in on the Star Shootout for the early game. So the Star Shootout is a mashup of players from all of the early or the late games on Sunday. And they put those stars together, and then they give you lines of multiple players, and you got to go in on it. So guys, these lines here, we're going to decide whether we want more or less, and we're just going to kind of go around the horn there. So we've got the first player, Adam Thielen, who is at home versus the Atlanta Falcons. The line for Adam Thielen is 6.5 receptions. He's been really good so far this season. I believe he is a top 5 wide receiver at this current moment. So that's a really solid line for him. To basically, you want him to hit 7 receptions. Ty, just in the order of how our video screens are right now, what are you thinking on Adam Thielen in that 6.5 reception line?
Who are they playing? They're playing the Atlanta Falcons, right?
The Falcons.
Wow, who are just bleeding points to the wide receiver position. They're giving up like over 35 points to the position in half PPR. I guess I would still go under because 7 receptions is a really hard mark to hit. We know Justin Jefferson is emerging as well. We know how underutilized the tight end position has been there, whether it's Irv Smith or old man Kyle Rudolph. So I think I will take the under. I do recognize that the Falcons have given up over 70 catches to the position in 5 games, and I recognize that they're giving up like 35 half PPR points to the position. But give me the under. Give me the under because it's safe.
I dig it. Dan, you are in Minnesota. What would you say on this 6.5 line? I am looking at his box scores for the season so far, and he's only hit 7 or more receptions twice this season, but those happen to be in the last 2 games. So where are you sitting for Thielen?
Under.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
It's exactly the same reasons. I mean, with the Vikings looking at, hopefully controlling this game, which I think they're going to want to try to do on the ground as much as possible because that's just kind of their MO. And I don't know if the Falcons can hang with them right now. If the Vikings are really focusing on using their running backs, even with Cook out, we already talked up Madison and what he brings, and that he's an especially good receiver. So I'm gonna take the under on this. I just don't think they're gonna have to pass that much, and so I think Thielen is probably 5 to 6 receptions rather than 7.
I like it. JD, where are you at?
I'm going to go with the over, just the over under right now at 54. Atlanta's been awful. I don't think that's going to change. 54 right now.
Ooh, that's big,
on that game. So it's a high over under. And I mean, Thielen, he's going to get most of those. I don't see anyone on Atlanta kind of covering him and, putting him on an island per se. So I'll take the over considering he's had 8 or 9 targets in the last couple of games.
You know what I think is interesting, Dan, is that you could attest to this being a Vikings guy. It's been a totally different ball game for Adam Thielen in 2020. Like if it was last year, I would hammer the over, but it's all air yards and like it's pretty crazy. The depth of target and the air yards and the red zone. It's all touchdowns. It's a different ball game for Adam Thielen this year. It's really cool to watch, but if we're talking market share, if it wasn't 7 receptions, but 50% of the team's receptions, I'd be hammering it. But yeah, it's really funny what we're seeing in Minnesota this year, and Adam Thielen is really operating in a different way this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I didn't really see it coming exactly this way, but it's working out well for him. I mean, I was buying Adam Thielen as JD can tell you, pretty much every league, I was trying to get a hold of Adam Thielen in the offseason. And, it's so far it's paying off really well. So I'm more than happy to have him. I would definitely put him at, if we're talking over under, 0.5 touchdowns or whatever, give me the over. But if we're talking under 6.5 receptions, I will take the under on that this week, though I would love to see him hit the over.
I like it. I like that. So being that we have an even number of people, I'm going to allow that that natural majority that the three of you just came up with to win on this one and go for the less option. I probably actually would have gone for less than 7 receptions as well myself. So we're going to stick with that one. And then we're going to move on to the next one. And this one is actually really interesting too. Derrick Henry versus the Houston Texans. So in Tennessee, that rushing yards line is 96.5 yards. So JD, we are going to start with you this time. Is Derrick Henry going to hit a 97 burger against the Texans this week?
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because he's put up over 130 in 2 of his first 4 games, and he put up 63 against Buffalo. If I'm looking at Houston, the spread right now is 3 in favor of Tennessee. You gotta lay 1.5 to the home team, so they're favored by 1.5. So they're predicting this game. Vegas, who in my experience is pretty accurate, is forecasting this game to be very close. So because you see this wide spread in yardage, Houston's defense is not the best.
The worst, in fact. The most rushing yards given up belong to the Houston Texans.
Worst, right?
140 a game.
I was going to say it's hard to take the under because it's not like they're putting it at 120. Because it's under 100, I'm going to take the over. Yep. But I think it's closer than – I don't think it's as much of a guaranteed bet as Fantasyland might think. I'm going to take the over, but I'm hesitant.
Right. Dan, how about yourself?
I'm going with JD here. I will take the over as well. I just, Houston gives up just chunk plays on the ground. And, if Derrick Henry gets a little chance to build up some speed, he's going to be tough to bring down. So I'm going with the over. I think they're going to lean on him pretty heavily in this game if they can. And, over for me.
And Ty, finish us off here, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, giving up 140 yards to the running back position, we know there's not much going on behind Derrick Henry right now. What's his name is injured, the rookie running back they took in the 3rd round. And Jeremy McNichols actually got some run on Tuesday night, but Mike Vrabel was livid with him because he ran out of bounds like a jerk off at the end of the game. For everyone saw that. But 140 yards per game to the ground, and you're playing one of the best running backs. But wait, what month is it? Still October. Maybe we should be fading Derrick Henry, but in all seriousness, I think it's a really fair line. You know what I mean? Like he's going to be right around that 100 yards. If he gets over 20 carries, I take the over. If he's going to get under 20, I take the under. But I think I'll take the over. But I'd like to point out that this is going to be a new regime, right, coming into place in Houston. So it'll be interesting to see how they perform. We know teams have that little bump in production efficiency performance when it comes to those early games after releasing a head coach. So I'm sure everyone has this immaculate weight off their shoulders in Houston. So I kind of agree with JD where he was leaning towards talking about the game script and imagining this being a pretty close game. I do actually expect Houston to be more competitive in this game than maybe the line suggests because it is a divisional game and because they do have that bump of, free from Bill.
So just a little tidbit on that, because if you listen to Vegas right now, shout out to Straight Out of Vegas with RJ Bell, in a short sample size like the NFL versus something like the major leagues, Major League Baseball or NHL, where the leagues are the seasons are longer, the new coach effect is more effective in a longer season where things become more stagnant and there's more reason to be motivated. As we're in football, it's not as much as a factor. That's just like a little tidbit that I'd like to add to that. But you're definitely right, Ty. There is a bit of a spark. I just think that Vegas, based on their research, finds that it's less evident in the NFL.
That's interesting. I was basing mine totally on anecdotal information. So it's really cool. I did not know that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to dive deeper into that too and see if the switch from an offensive coach to a defensive coach or a defensive to an offensive has a different factor in any sort of way, because we're talking about how Houston's defense is going to perform, and Romeo Crennel is a defensive coordinator coming in for Bill O'Brien, who was an offensive coordinator beforehand. So just interesting dynamics there, and I like how you guys pointed that out. So I am going to go with the crew here and go for the more option for all of the reasons you guys said. And with Derrick Henry's lines so far this year, he had 57 yards against the Bills just this past week. I mean, the Bills are a really good defense. And then his other game under 100 was 84 against the Jags, who the first couple games out this season were actually pretty decent against the run. So I think the Houston defense is going to be like a sieve for Derrick Henry. And that's why I think I'm going to smash the more option there with you guys. So gentlemen, this one, I decided we're going to go a little special on it. I know that the segment is called I Got 5 on it, and we had all that loonies banter before the show. We're going to throw a 20 spot down on this one. I just want to get, because we only went with 2 players, the multiplier is 3 times. So I'd rather turn 20 into 60 than turn 5 into 15. So yeah, I guess for this week, we're going to call it I Got 20 on it. We're going to try and make a little bit of bank. What's that? Which one was that?
I'm really rich.
I wish I could say that is the case, but so you're going to submit that bad boy. Oh, nice.
So I'm just looking here, boys. I'm looking at Derrick Henry's yards per carry per month. September, 3.9. October, which is the month we are currently in, 3.8 yards per carry in 17 games. November, 5.9 yards per carry. December, 5.4 yards per carry.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
And that is more than cold fucking weather, everybody. Like, yeah, it gets colder. Yeah. Don't want to tackle Derrick Henry when it's colder. There's more going on when you're averaging 2 more yards per carry.
Yeah, I just wouldn't want to tackle Derrick Henry ever myself personally. I would probably get exploded. So awesome, guys. I really appreciate that.
Top block.
Yeah, absolutely. I just get greasy with it. Awesome, guys. So I appreciate that. Last week on I Got 5 on it was our first, and I repeat, our first W since that segment has come into play. And I am hopeful that this one will turn
relatively young segment. Young segment.
Absolutely. Yeah. Small sample size. Yeah. And that was with Jake Trowbridge and Dustin Lund from the Drinking and Talking Fantasy Football Podcast. Love those guys. Check their work out.
Yeah.
And I am
on Twitter, both of them.
Absolutely. And I am just hopeful that we're going to make a little bit more cheddar for old T-Rav, guys. So thank you for the input there. Okay. This is the last segment of the pod, and I think we're going to try and go a little bit quick, gentlemen, just because of where we're at for time. But we are just going to do a segment that Ty and I used to do from time to time. We're going to re-up it. It's called Quick Ups. And this week we are going to give a little tire pumping sesh to our boy, Mapletron, Chase Claypool, 7 catches, 110 yards, 4 touchdowns against my hopeless Philadelphia Eagles. He had 1 on the ground and 3 through the air. That I was super torn in that game because I was loving watching Chase Claypool light it up. Ty has his terrible towel out upside down right there. And his Steelers hat right on. Okay, we're going to shut down his video feed. But yeah, just a great game overall by the Abbotsford boy and Chase Claypool. Ty, you are the resident Steelers fan, so I'm going to let you gush last a little bit. Dan, how did you feel about our fellow Northerner as an honorary member? Were you excited just as we were to see him light it up last week?
All right. So I was definitely excited to see it. And I was also a little bit crushed because a couple weeks ago, JD and I had, yeah, that's right. That was that team. The Quarter Billies. We had Claypool on the squad. This is a redraft. And our squad was hurting. We needed some wins, and Claypool was not getting that many targets. So we went in search of more targets and hopefully more points. And so we let Claypool go off the squad, and now he's sitting out there in free agent land. Yeah. And, watching him, he looked like a man amongst boys on Sunday. It was fun to watch. So you can see, he's one of those guys that you see him just absolutely knock out the combine, and you're going, yeah, well, combine doesn't matter much for wide receivers. We need to pay attention to production.
He's a tight end though, right?
What?
He's a tight end though, right?
Well, kind of.
No, I'm kidding. Just all the talk of him switching positions is what I'm alluding to.
So he never did, and of course he would have been an absolute stud as a tight end, but he went out there and I think he's shown that he's going to play to that athleticism in the NFL. I don't know what happened in college, why they couldn't.
That was the worry, Dan. You nailed it, man.
Yeah. So
that translate. Was he going to be DHB? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. DHB or Miles Boykin or somebody like that, who just hasn't really popped. And the NFL is littered with those kind of players, but when they pop, they do tend to be special. So yeah, I think if you can get them, now is not the time. Wait until he has a couple of 3 target games or something like that, and then come back to the well. But yeah, he's definitely going to be worth grabbing.
Mm-hmm. JD, why don't you tell me what you liked about Claypool's coming out party?
Yeah, I actually, what I liked about Claypool was prior to his coming out party is if you look at this guy's backstory, you look at a guy that, was nowhere on the radar. No. He's a self-made man,
He's from the Bible Belt of Canada.
Literally put himself out there. There's no football in Canada, man, other than the True North and the Goat District. I mean,
it's a laughing stock for Canadians.
And the old Minnesota. I mean, that's the only football in Canada you're going to find. But this boy put himself on the map. He threw himself out there on YouTube. He worked his balls off, his Canadian cold balls off,
his snowballs.
and if you learn this guy's backstory, and that's what happened to me. Once I learned his backstory coming into the offseason, especially my best ball teams, you'll see him on the back end of a lot of my rosters for that reason. Yeah, there was hype thanks to Will and the rest of True North and the Canadian crew out there in FF Canucks. But once you learned about this guy, you knew that he was going to be a success. He's a success anywhere he goes, this guy. And he's in the right setting. He's got Big Ben. He's got a veteran quarterback. He's got opportunity. You see an offense that's opened up opportunity to receivers, even if they've had studs there. So I'm not surprised it happens. I'm more kind of saddened that it happened this early before I got to buy more shares in Dynasty. That's kind of where I'm at. But I agree with Dan. Do not go buy now. If you owned him, you either sell or you sit on it and hope that value builds back to where it's at now. But for me, this is the 52-week high, baby. You sell now.
I like it. Okay, Ty, Steelers fan, Canadian boy. The floor is yours, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it goes back to the draft process as well, because I wasn't 100% sold. It's funny, Dan mentioned Miles Boykin. That's almost exactly who I put him in the same tier with, as a prospect or whatever. Definitely a guy I had to ask myself, is he a one-hit wonder as well, because of how much of his production came in his final season of college as well. But I think once he tested out, like he measured out like Calvin Benjamin, but he tested out like Megatron. So once that happened, I think it was crazy that people would even mention him and tight end in the same sense because of that athleticism. Like you look at Mark Andrews, Mike Gesicki, Claypool is way faster than them. He's bigger than those guys as well. He's bigger than the Jordan Reeds. He's way bigger than these guys. So I thought it was really interesting that people still wanted to put him in that tight end realm when he was really just going to be a difference maker, a guy you can't stop in the NFL if he hits. So I think it's really interesting that, Dan made a great point. These eye tests that we have to see that athleticism translate. It doesn't always, right? You think of a Cordell Patterson, all these guys. It doesn't always translate, and sometimes they end up being a gadget player like a Cordell Patterson is all of a sudden. So I just think Claypool, he put up the high end, he put up the big plays. He has the athleticism. He has the red zone efficiency upside. And now it was the landing spot. Like that's what sold me was when he went to the wide receiver factory in Pittsburgh in round 2. We checked both boxes, situation, draft capital, and I was like, okay, this guy's like the next Demaryius Thomas all of a sudden, because he is exactly what this team needed to complement the wide receivers in place.
Good
Whereas,
point.
You look at Juju Smith-Schuster, who's kind of a strict slot guy, Deontay is a perfect wide receiver. And I think, by the way, if Juju was to walk in the offseason, which is extremely likely because of the cap constrictions, the historical way we've dealt with wide receivers, even if they are studs in Pittsburgh, whether it's Emmanuel Sanders, Mike Wallace, you name it. So Juju walking, Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool taking over this backfield is entirely possible. And really, there's nothing Claypool can't do. He can body smaller quarterbacks with that monstrous size. He can be that contested catch guy, that red zone threat. And nobody can defend like a great back shoulder throw to a 6'4" guy who burns 4-3 off the line and stops up on a dime. You can't defend that play in the NFL. And, you know, it might be almost as simple as saying Claypool has the ability to burn cornerbacks with his speed. And if they try and press him at the line, they won't be able to match his physicality. And big body wide receivers who can win against press man coverage, they just don't grow on trees or anywhere. They're just extremely hard to find. And clearly, guys, we were seeing how limited Big Ben Roethlisberger is. Like, if you're watching Steelers games, it's just, we're calling him Ben Screenlessberger this year. So Claypool can be kind of the recipient of those Demaryius Thomas screens and gadget plays to get the ball.
Where's the sound effect for that one?
Yeah. Like some clown show sound effect. Yeah. But like we've seen him get these touches, right? Including a goal line rushing touchdown in week 5.
Yeah.
The Canadian posted his hat trick on a sexy design screen right at the goal line. So, you know, he's putting out some special stuff on paper. The yards after the catch, which is what this offense at Big Ben is all about, is yards after the catch. And you look at the numbers, I mean, he's ahead of Juju Smith-Schuster, who's a yak machine. And the whole league is chasing right now. Chase Claypool leads the NFL in yards after the catch per reception among wide receivers with 10-plus catches. So, gimme.
That's beautiful. I really like that.
Short term, I do think we can scale expectations back a bit. Like, I think if you want to go buy him, it'll be in the next few weeks that he's going to have these down weeks with Deontay and Juju in there. And for some reason, us forcing the ball to the tight end position a little bit more than I'd like to see. I think he could be doing a lot of what Eric Ebron's doing in this offense going forward.
Yeah, I think that was really well put. And like you said, with Juju most likely walk in, and he has already passed James Washington on the depth chart. Deontay and Chase Claypool are both going to be productive for us moving forward as dynasty managers. And Juju is somebody that I might kind of buy as well if he gets into an offense where he has priority on a new team. We got Jimmy in the comments there saying that he wants to see Juju in Green Bay. I'm not sure if that would materialize, but that would look pretty sexy with those two opposite each other for Aaron Rodgers, or even maybe
I love it. Devontae Adams plays.
That'd be
yeah.
Oh, yeah. They could be alternating slot roles. Devontae Adams playing 30%, Juju 70%. That's just a recipe for
different kind of slot players too, right? Like different kind of slot players for sure, I think. Which would be
Devontae's
really, really cool.
used in that LaFleur way that we even saw Corey Davis used in as a rookie. Like he's bringing those guys into the slot to get them away. We see it with Mike Thomas. I think that's the next, frontier for defenses is to cover the fuck out of those guys when they go into the slot because of how high they're targeted on their snaps in the slot and stuff. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things that teams are focusing in on.
Nice. All right, guys. So we're at $1.50 here. It's been a good epi. The True North standard is to have long episodes, so I'm here for it, fellas. And I know, JD, it's late for you, and Dan, it's a little bit later than it is for us, for you as well. So I appreciate you guys hanging in there with us because we like to let her rip over here at the True North Pod. So just a couple plugs before we go. Our site is truenorthffb.com. Find us on Twitter at TrueNorthFFB, and the YouTube channel is at the TNFF network, sorry. And then one plug that kind of coincides with you guys over at Goat District as well is that we want to say thanks to our partners over at Veridian Global. Veridian is a company that we have teamed up with to bring you the best merch in the game. JD, can you stand up for a second for anybody who's viewing on the YouTube channel? JD's rocking the True North tee, and I think he will attest to the fact that it is extremely comfortable. I actually have an order on the way right now, and I cannot wait till that package comes in the mail. And Veridian's Football Collective is really cool because Veridian's paired up with a bunch of different sites, podcasts, what have you, in order to bring really good merch to the fantasy landscape. And that includes podcasts such as the Goat District podcast with our friends JD and Dan here. The Undroppables have their gear over at Veridian. Dynasty Happy Hour has their stuff at Veridian, as well as you guys mentioned on your pod today, the Dynasty Warzone as well. And then our friends from the Fantasy Football Astronauts just got linked up with Veridian as well. So we really appreciate what Will and Mark are doing over there. Brian's in the comments saying V-Gear makes you sexier. It is science. That's true. That's true, ladies and gentlemen. You don't deny science. So But one thing I want to say on top of that is that we've recently launched a design, the A-Team design. And I just kind of want to clear that up because even in the True North group chat, we weren't necessarily sure whether the A-Team refers to us as a team or our fans, supporters, listeners. And you know what we decided is it is all of us. We are the A-Team as team members of True North, and listeners and supporters are a part of the A-Team together because we ride together, and we hope that you really like tuning in. We want you guys to come back and love our content because we're putting in lots of work here. And so, yeah, anybody who supports us, if you're a part of the team, if you're not, if you love our stuff, you are a part of the A-Team. I'm going to flash that design up on the screen here for anybody to see. And so we want to encourage anybody, you know, if you are a supporter of us, hit up truenorthffb.com/shop and check out this design, and you can be rocking the A-Team as well to show your support. If you want to tack on some goat gear, go to veridianglobal.com and you can pick up some goat gear alongside your A-Team shirt, which is what I would prefer because that goat gear is looking fresh. So yeah, veridianglobal.com or truenorthffb.com/shop to check it all out. We appreciate those guys. We appreciate our supporters and anybody who's decided to rock the fresh digs. So yeah, it's been a fun partnership. You guys are enjoying it too. JD, you got the shirt on there and comfy stuff and really good to work with those guys, eh?
Yeah, man. Good people, good products, high quality, comfortable. They fit really well. And, you know, just the originality of it. You know, we had Shane Swag on the show and he even said it. You're rocking this gear. Nobody in your hood is rocking this gear. You know, you're unique. You're rocking something different. People will ask you about it. So if you want to be a little different, you don't want to wear like the Nike swoosh or the Adidas, you know, played out logo. You bust some TNFF or some goat gear or some DHH or Warzone or whatever it is that you're into, or maybe get a bit of everything and support the product that's being put out there. But yeah, the quality is A1 for sure.
And if you do get any, whether it's True North, Goat, or even the Veridian specific designs, make sure you post a picture of yourself wearing it on Twitter and use the hashtag #RockinTheV and the folks over at Veridian, I believe, are going to do a monthly giveaway for anybody who sends those pictures in. So I know when I get my order in, I got the wifey a hoodie as well with True North branding on it. So we're going to take a little couples photo and toss it on Twitter as hashtag #RockinTheV. So guys, I really appreciate you guys coming on this pod. You guys are super good friends. I was excited for this one all week. I'm kind of sad that it's over. JD, tell the folks where to find you and the kind of stuff you're working on these days.
Yeah, man. I had the pleasure of joining this man right over here, I think, on this side, on the weekly, on the Goat District. We guarantee that on a weekly. We do a bunch of other stuff on the side, $250,000 Billies, which is us chasing $500,000 on the FFPC. We've got ballin'. We've got, you know, different angles on fantasy, but stay with us, whether it's on Instagram, Goat District FF, or on YouTube, Goat District. We're dropping goodness on the regular. Like you guys mentioned, we've got all our goat gear on Veridian Global, some top-notch stuff there. And we're bringing something new to the Goat District, something I started on the side that we're going to incorporate. If you're into MMA or UFC, Goat MMA is something that is going to be part of the Goat District network very, very soon. So we're excited about that. Dan, what do you want to add, brother? Other than I keep bringing it back, but it might be jealousy. It might be admiration. Dude, the hair is looking slick.
He is not falling.
This is what I'm playing with, brother. So, you know.
I got the Michael Cera going.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
I just got a fresh cut, actually, so I'm looking kind of trim. My beard's a shit show, though. Go ahead, Dan. Where can they find you, brother?
You can find me at Overhyped Sweeper. Drop the final E from Sweeper. You will find me on the Goat District each and every week, and I really enjoy podding with JD and just hanging out in the Goat chat. I mean, you know, I know you guys with the True North, you got a great chat going. We have the same thing with the Goat chat. I mean, it's absolutely on fire day after day after day. One of my favorite places to hang out. So, but thanks for having us, guys. I really, really appreciate it. I mean, just dropping a lot of knowledge on this podcast. You know, you guys have come up with some writer downers for me there too, where it's like, yeah, it's a good point. I didn't think about it that way. So thanks a lot for that. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. It was our pleasure. It was our pleasure. I know that Ty and I have both been on your guys' show, and you guys were very gracious hosts to the both of us. And so it was only right for us to return the favor. Ty, where can they find you, brother?
Yeah, you can find me at TNFF Tyrell on Twitter. And just shout out to JD and Dan. Like, I can't thank you guys enough. And even just for what you guys have done in the past before you even knew who the fuck I was. Like, I honestly... It's hard to describe why you get into certain podcasts, why you appreciate certain content, but I think I can articulate it with you guys. What the GOAT District has always done for me is kind of relay, your everyday fantasy football information and stuff you want with things like the FFPC. It's introduced me into a lot of different avenues that I otherwise wouldn't have or would have felt, a little bit overwhelmed by or whatever. So I've always thought that, I might not have ever gone on the FFPC if I didn't listen to the GOAT District and things like that. So, hashtag always be trading, hashtag Brainiacs. I've just always been a big fan. I just want to wrap the intro right now. But I just can't thank you guys enough. I appreciate all the support. I love the baseball tees for the gear on the GOAT District page there on Veridian. And yeah, you guys just hashtag always be trading. Make sure you're following these guys because it's can't miss content each week.
Thanks, Ty.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, definitely a leg up in fantasy football since I started listening to you fellas, and so thankful that we've gotten to actually know you guys and become friends and stuff. So there's going to be many more
tentacles.
Yeah,
all the tentacles. DHH.
Totally, man.
The Dynasty Warzone. Who's the guy? Memphis something.
Randy.
I call him Memphis Reigns because I can't think of anything but the Gone in 60 Seconds Nicolas Cage character when I hear Memphis for some reason. But I've always enjoyed that podcast because you guys get into some of the philosophical things that I've always appreciated when it comes to game theory and stuff. It's always that degenerate poker background. Definitely going to check out that MMA stuff because man alive, it's just too hard to follow MMA these days. Like I grew up as a diehard back in the day, but it's getting harder and harder, the older and older you get to follow all these bloody fighters who are fighting every week. So that's an invaluable resource. And it's a way that I can probably rekindle my love for MMA.
For sure. And that's funny that you say that, Ty, because I have actually just recently started getting more into MMA and following who these fighters and stuff are. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more, fellas, because I want to see what you guys are cooking up there and see what kind of stuff I can soak in as an additive to your stellar fantasy football content. So with that, guys, I'm going to ride it out here. We really appreciate all the support from any of our listeners, any of our friends in the community. If you like the stuff, go check us out on the website. Feel free to hit the shop and check out some of that gear. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. We're here once a week, Wednesday nights at 7:00. So we appreciate those tuning in. Once again, thanks to Dan and JD from the GOAT District. And this will, yeah, yeah. So this will not be the last time you guys join the show. That's for sure. So until next time, we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.
Peace.